my personal experience and my lens, and I think this will also help you understand why I see things this way. When I was a freshman in high school, I dated a senior. I mentioned that a little bit before. I was so in love with this guy. I mean, absolutely head over heels. This was like my first big love. Oh my God, like heart to the stars. Like, I'll give you everything, right? Well, he was an older guy. I think he was 18 or 19. And this dude had big dreams of going to New York and being a freegan. I'm not fucking kidding. Like, this is a real story from my life. And me being dumb and like 14 or 15, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, whatever. And I don't even remember how it happened, but he had tried to convince me, and I was like down, that I should run away from home. This is, I cannot believe I'm telling you this. He told me that he was convincing me, because I was very young, I was like 14 or 15, that I should run away from home with him and go to New York, and we were going to live out there and figure it out. We didn't even have a car to get to New York, but when you're this young, somebody like this, that's older, they can really influence you. I believe our age difference was 15 and 18. I believe. To me, he was a much older guy. There's some seniority when it comes to those high school roles. And I was like down. I'm like, yeah, let's run away. Let's do this out. Leave it. Like, whatever. I don't, first of all, I would not be here sitting in front of you right now. Second of all, what the fuck? Third of all, the reason that I did not go is because his friend went first, and the way that he hitched a ride from Virginia to New York was by train hopping. And on his second train, he fell off of the train and had his leg sawed off and had to be rescued by some random farmer that took a detour. That is how my ex-boyfriend proposed that we get to New York City. So, I am not a parent, but I am a person that has been through this experience. And so when I'm here 16, 19, and some people think, oh, that's not a big deal, I understand how much an older person can influence you when you think that they have something to offer you. I don't know. Anyways, all that to say, I would not be sitting here in front of you right now if, you know, my mom didn't pull out all the stops to get me away from this guy. And also, I learned nothing from that relationship other than train hopping going to New York. So anyways, just taking a second to give you a little bit of my lens so you can understand why I feel the way that I feel. But if you have a different lens, or you just see a different pattern or something in here, I'm so curious to hear what you guys think. None of us are completely right, none of us are completely wrong. We just live through our experiences, right? So, back to Carrie Murphy. There were moments where Carrie would still go back and try to blame it on Zane when she was all out of options, but that guy was so crossed off of the suspect list at this point, it wasn't going to go anywhere. Also, here's something that's interesting. Rebecca had a call with Carrie where she said, and remember, these were all recorded, quote, "I'm glad you didn't see what happened in there." And then Carrie said she actually saw everything because she poked her head in the bedroom. And Rebecca said, "You weren't supposed to see. I told you to stay in your room." And Carrie said, "They're trying to play us, but it's not working because we're smarter than they are." Which also, by the way, Carrie, no, honey, I saw that interrogation. No. Here's the thing. We never got the full story of what happened, which is a little shocking to me that Carrie and Rebecca didn't fully turn on each other and divulge everything. This is possibly because they stayed in contact for that 18 months after Carrie was bailed out. But regardless, the girls were still pretty young, and Rebecca, who was probably the most implicated, was offered a plea deal that she accepted. She admitted to planning the crime. She admitted to purchasing the knife that was used to stab Marianne. She also admitted to trying to hide evidence, and she admitted to throwing the brick and smashing other things to try to imitate the break-in. The child sex charge came in after, in one instance, they realized that Marianne Murphy had found the burner phone and saw sext messages between the two girls. So this was one way they were able to confirm that she was doing things with her when she was a minor, but also further messages on the cell phone showed that they had done something the night of the murders as well. At the end of it all, Carrie also took a plea deal, but she was still given 30 years in prison. Rebecca was sentenced to 60 years in prison. Another little piece I thought was really interesting, you guys that listen to a lot of Sinisters might like, is Rebecca is actually incarcerated at the William Key Hobby Unit Prison for Women in Falls County, Texas, where Camilla Fraser Goodrow is also housed. She was the rodeo queen killer that was obsessed with her father. This story is really interesting and sad for a number of reasons. There are parts of Carrie and Rebecca's relationship that seem really honest and innocent. You know, them realizing that they had a genuine connection, and they didn't even realize they might be attracted to women, but they cared so much for each other that it really brought that out about them. They wanted to plan a life together, they wanted to be honest and move to Florida and do all of these things. However, when Mary Ann rightfully stepped in to protect her daughter, especially with the age difference, they absolutely couldn't handle the idea of somebody separating them.
Tonight, breaking news, the whiteout conditions, highway pileups, the storm sweeping into the east at this hour, now turning deadly. Tonight, 115 million Americans in 25 states under alerts for blizzard conditions and dangerous winds. And now severe storms from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, New York to Boston. Blinding snow shutting down parts of I-80. Wind gusts flipping a big rig onto its side. A second storm now coming, and Lee Goldberg has the forecast. Also breaking as we come on tonight, President Trump's trade war with Canada, Mexico, and China. Canada and China retaliating already. Mexico planning to retaliate this weekend. And tonight, what's now happened with America's big three automakers. Tonight, an alleged terror suspect now in custody and brought to the U.S. The scene at Dulles Airport. Federal prosecutors accusing him of helping to plan the deadly Afghanistan bombing at Kabul Airport's Abbey Gate. Now sweeping into the east at this hour, and it's turned deadly. 115 million Americans on alert in 25 states for blizzard conditions, dangerous winds, and severe storms. The system now stretching up the East Coast. Severe storms from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, New York, right up through Boston. Snow and winter weather on the backside of this. Whiteout conditions and treacherous driving. Destroying buildings in Union County, North Carolina. Torrential rains and damaging winds near Raleigh, now moving up the I-95 corridor. Meteorologist Lee Goldberg has the forecast and the timing of this into the night, and now a new storm brewing. And Stephanie Ramos with the images already coming in tonight.
Tonight, whiteout conditions and wrecks across the Midwest as a massive and now deadly storm bears down on the Northeast. This sheriff's deputy in Dallas County, Iowa, hunkered down as the winds howled.
Oh my God.
Blinding snow causing dozens of crashes on highways across Iowa. A driver spotting this massive pileup on Interstate 35 near Huxley, Iowa. Cars and tractor trailers scattered on the highway. Traffic backed up for miles. Iowa State Trooper Paul Gardner showing the frozen tundra on US 20 northwest of Des Moines. Up to a foot of snow in parts of the upper Midwest. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz declaring a state of emergency. Conditions across the Twin Cities metro deteriorating by the minute. Overnight, a stretch of Interstate 80 near Lincoln, Nebraska shut down for a time after multiple crashes there. First responders racing through the blowing snow to rescue drivers. Watch, this tractor trailer tips over outside Garden City, Kansas. Winds gusting more than 90 miles an hour in parts of the state. Meanwhile, torrential rain and powerful thunderstorms slamming the I-95 corridor. Outside Charlotte, multiple buildings torn apart by a confirmed EF1 tornado with 90-mile-an-hour winds. Families in North Texas and outside Oklahoma City cleaning up after multiple confirmed tornadoes touched down in the last 24 hours. And sadly, officials in Mississippi say at least 3 people are dead in the state, including a man electrocuted by a falling power line.
And David, it is a brutal ride home as those storms move through the Northeast. We're on alert for flash flooding and high winds that can take down trees. Power outages a big concern through the night. David.
Could be a tough night ahead. Stephanie Ramos leading us off. Steph, thank you. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg of our station here in New York, WABC. Lee, what do you see?
David, wind-driven downpours right here in New York now, getting hit hard this evening, and then that soaking moves into New England. Even though we're in the home stretch, a lot of wind alerts across the eastern two-thirds of the country. We had 100 high wind reports across the mid-Atlantic, near a 60-mile-per-hour gust all the way up to Trenton, New Jersey. And right now it's heavy rain along the I-95 corridor. New York improves after about 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, but then it's a soaking for New England overnight. As we go into tomorrow morning, we still have some snow showers that are working through the Great Lakes and into the Ohio Valley. Another major storm out west. Numerous states under winter weather alerts. We could see up to 3 feet of snow in the mountains, and then the snow is headed to the heartland again, just as they're digging out from snow over the last couple of days. David?
Lee Goldberg of WABC here in New York. Lee, thank you. There are new developments at this hour in President Trump's trade war with Canada, Mexico, and China. Of course, Canada and China already retaliating. Mexico set to retaliate this weekend. And tonight, how the president responded when the CEOs of America's big three automakers pleaded with the president for relief from these tariffs. ABC's Rachel Scott at the White House tonight.
The CEOs of the big three American automakers, Ford, Stellantis, and General Motors, making a personal appeal to President Trump, calling him to say his 25% tariffs on everything imported from Canada and Mexico will devastate their industry, begging him for a reprieve. In his speech to the American people, Trump declaring the CEOs told him they loved his policies.
Spoke to the majors today, all three, the top people, and they're so excited.
But the president tonight agreeing to pause his tariffs for 1 month on cars coming into the U.S. from Canada and Mexico. Vice President J.D. Vance making it clear it's only a short-term fix.
The way to avoid application of the tariffs is to have your factory and have your facility in the United States of America.
Economists warn American businesses pay the tariffs and pass the cost along to consumers by raising prices. By one estimate, the price of a new car could shoot up $3,000. Prices expected to spike across the board on everything from clothing and electronics to fruits and vegetables. I asked the White House if President Trump would consider exempting eggs, where prices have already gone up amid a shortage.
The U.S. imported $43 million worth of eggs from Canada. I know you mentioned some of the exemptions when it comes to automakers. Will there be any other carve-outs, including for eggs? We know prices are soaring for Americans.
The president is open to hearing about additional exemptions. He always has open dialogue.
The president acknowledging his tariffs might cause inflation.
There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much.
I asked the White House how long that will last.
How long should Americans expect to pay higher prices? Are we talking a week, a couple of days, a few months?
Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I can assure the American people is
She's
that this
so
president
rude.
and this administration is doing everything they can.
The president did hold a 50-minute phone call today with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But
concerned after receiving no answer and contacted neighborhood security to conduct a welfare check. Security then checked on the residence and observed Mr. Hackman and Miss Arakawa on the ground unresponsive to a window and called 911. Deputies arrived and gained access to the residence where they observed Mrs. Arakawa deceased. They continued the search of their home and located Mr. Hackman in a separate area of the residence, also deceased. A German Shepherd was also found deceased, and 2 other dogs who appeared healthy were located on the property.
Now, what's so strange about this is how they were found dead, but in different rooms. And the reason I say that is because initially when we heard this news, I think when they had said probably not foul play, we all suspected, okay, maybe carbon monoxide poisoning, maybe some other type of poisoning, maybe some sort of drug overdose, to where they were together. But the fact that they were in different rooms, it does add a little bit of a mysterious layer to that a little bit, because if it was something that was a freak accident or something of that nature, why weren't they together? And let me talk a little bit more before I get ahead of myself. So nothing is really confirmed or set in stone, but the police have said that the circumstances are what they are quoting suspicious. Suspicious enough to launch an investigation into everything. So far, they've conducted an autopsy and they have searched the entire home, but a specific cause of death has not been determined or shared publicly so far.
An autopsy was performed. Initial findings noted no external trauma to either individual. The manner and cause of death has not been determined. The official results of the autopsy and toxicology reports are pending.
On Jean and Betsy, there were no signs of trauma or bruising, and there were also no immediate signs of foul play, as I said. So, like I said, at first there were theories of the gas leak, maybe carbon monoxide, but there were also no signs of that. There were also some theories about an open pill bottle that was found near Betsy. The pill bottle was found open, and the prescription pills were kind of laying scattered around the room. But police later said that these pills were Tylenol, thyroid medication, and also a drug to treat high blood pressure. Certainly not anything like oxycodone or anything alarming. I mean, it's not very likely that all of those pills were the cause of death for all three of them. One thing that has been confirmed, though, from the autopsy is that the couple likely died 9 days before they were found. Now, a lot of people believe that Jean could have died from natural causes, especially since he had a heart disease and a pacemaker. But what's kind of mind-boggling and on everybody's mind is how the wife and dog also passed away at the same time, in the same time frame at least. So police are saying that they're going through all of the cell phone records, the security cameras, the photos, just really any data that they can get their hands on so that they can piece everything together. But even if Jean did pass away of old age, natural causes, something to do with his heart and his pacemaker, remember Betsy was 30 years younger than him. And where does the dog come into play with this? Some people have suggested maybe it's like The Notebook or something like that they were so in love, they were together for 34 years that she couldn't live without him, so she took her own life after he passed away. That's possible. Then could the dog have passed away from starvation, from getting into the pills? I don't know. But the community and their close friends are, of course, devastated, and especially their families. Jean's kids said that this definitely came as a shock, since, like I said before, he was still, even though he was in his 90s, he was in great physical shape. Betsy and Jean would do yoga, they would go to Pilates, and Jean was even still wonderful. And while many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulations to ensure their efficiency. And in a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol for 6 months. And look, everyone's root causes of hair thinning are different, so a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't always cut it, and Nutrafol has multiple formulations tailored to different life stages, such as postpartum and menopause, even different lifestyles, including plant-based diets. So building a hair growth routine is simple. You purchase online, there's no prescription required, and with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%. You can get access to a free doctor consult and even a Headspace meditation membership that's included. So start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code AE. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists are recommending Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code AE. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code AE. Okay, I think we can all agree that the human body is an incredible machine. It repairs, it grows, it adapts in ways that we are still GPS on her car, where he was controlling her finances, he was brainwashing her, he was manipulating her to where she was so fearful of her life. She felt like there was no escape other than to take her own life. So, again, I will link the deep dive because it is a very interesting, fascinating case to me. It kind of gives, what does it give? It gives Barry Morphew meets Drew Peterson, not to be confused with Scott Peterson, meets, I don't know, who's another scumbag husband? I don't know. Those are two great examples. But it just kind of shows, too, that he's had, like, a history of being a creep and a sketchy guy. So now, even though people haven't really talked much about the Micah Miller case in the last several months, now an anonymous woman from Indiana recently dropped a complete bombshell because she alleges that John Paul raped her back in 1998 when he was 19 years old and she was only 14 years old. John Paul was reportedly working as a youth church leader at the time of this. And remember, it all goes back to the church, right? I'm not saying with every case, but with JP. It all goes back to the church. That's where he met Micah. That's where he started grooming her. All of these things. Now, the complaint also talks about JP's father, as well as the All Nations Cathedral Church and Solid Rock Ministries. Now, JP's father was the one in charge of the church that this girl was attending at the time. And the woman remembers the day that the assault happened very vividly. She alleges that JP took her into his father's office, that he immediately started being sexually aggressive, and that when the girl started refusing him, he allegedly took her out to his truck where he then raped her. And this is just a snippet of the woman's attorney describing what happened, so take a listen.
she went to go see her grandparents. She would go see them and stay with them for the summer, and they belonged to Cathedral Church. And Cathedral Church, which later became All Nations Church, was run by a man by the name of Reginald Wayne Miller. He goes by Wayne Miller, and he is the father of John Paul Miller. And one day she went to church with her grandmother, and going through the sanctuary, she saw John Paul Miller. He saw her. She spoke to him briefly, and then she went to the bathroom. And she came out of the bathroom, and he was right there waiting for her, which was right beside, coincidentally, close to his father's office.
And exploit vulnerable victims while concealing their actions from the public. The woman is suing for negligence, civil conspiracy, assault and battery, and infliction of emotional distress. So some people, of course, are like, okay, well, why did she wait so long to talk about this? Why did she bring it up now? Why didn't she bring it up earlier? But we have seen so many cases where women have trouble coming forward simply because they're scared that nobody's going to believe them, that they would just rather move forward and forget. Or, because there was such a power imbalance that the victim thinks they can't come forward. However, in this case, the anonymous woman said that she finally came forward because of another alleged assault in 2023. Also, an assault by J.P. Miller. She said that in 2023, the two of them ran into each other at Myrtle Beach. When she saw John, he leaned in to give her a hug, but then, out of nowhere, he stuck his hand down her pants and started touching her genitals. Take a listen.
It's a lesson, the complaint, and he came to her and went in like he was going to hug her, and as he did, he literally stuck his hand down her pants and grabbed her in the genital area. And there was a friend that was there with her.
And then, when the woman confronted him about it, he allegedly tried to defend his actions by using a Bible verse, which gives me a break right now. Like, I can't. He said, quote, "No man is without sin and temptation. God understands that." I mean, are you for real? Be for real right now. You're going to use scripture and Bible verses to excuse you putting your hands down a woman's pants uninvited and say, "Oh, no man is without sin and consequences. God understands it. It's okay." The audacity of this man. And this, again, you really got to go listen to the deep dive, guys, because this just illustrates to me, again, one more nail in his sorry-ass coffin that he is a narcissist, that he thinks he can literally get away with anything. So this disgusting encounter that she had with him is what finally made her realize what happened to her when she was 14, and I guess it's what finally made her kind of process what all of it was and what it all meant. The lawsuit alleges that the Millers and other church figures had a pattern of covering up abuse over the years in the church, even going as far as calling it John Paul's sexual playground. Now, in addition to the 2023 assault, the woman's lawyer said that the death of Micah Miller is really what pushed this woman to finally report what happened. The woman said that Micah's death gave her this deep-rooted feeling of guilt, and she wonders if she had reported JP sooner, if maybe it could have done anything or somehow changed the outcome of what happened to Micah. The woman's lawyer said that her main goal is to bring this to light so that it never happens to another woman again. The last time we talked about him was November of 2024. And the reason we talked about him was because his house had been raided by the FBI and he was arrested. Now, at that time, police said that he was facing assault charges that were unrelated to Micah's death. He ended up being released on bond, but since then, around the world, or come attend their massive, huge parties. But these women would usually show up and just end up getting sexual. Investigators also talked about how there were group chats between the brothers, with all of them talking about which drugs they had available, which drugs they could use on these women, like how they could help each other out and like do each other assault.
Oh my goodness.
To it, but I don't think that was your brilliant mind. I think that was your scumbag attorney, Jose Baez, but who knows? I do think it's crazy though too, even more than that, is the fact that when I checked last, she had 50,000 followers on TikTok. Show your faces. Show your faces. If you are somebody who is following her, go ahead and unsubscribe from me right now, because we should not be giving this woman a platform to spew any nonsense. Not at all. So I want to know who these 50,000 people are, because you got to go get your head checked. I mean, truthfully. It's just so crazy to me that 14 years later, after all of this went down, she's now putting herself back into the public eye, trying to get social media fame, trying to earn money off of it. Again, it seems narcissistic to me, but I don't know. I just can't believe that she would think that this is a good idea. And she is getting eviscerated online because she's had to turn her comments off, which to me I say, good, good. There was one comment, and I mentioned this in my, I I posted on Instagram about this as well, and I mentioned it in that video, which you can follow me on Instagram. Again, I can post real-time updates there. It's the same handle, @_AnnieElise. But I saw a comment on one of these TikTok videos that I thought, it kind of made me laugh, but it also was really true, and it said something like, we may be divided as a country right now politically, but at least we're all united in our hatred for Casey Anthony. So to that, I say, united we stand. Like, I think we can all agree on that. So let me know what you guys think about all this. I know we talked about a lot today. It seems like these episodes are getting longer and longer and longer. I also wanted to remind you, if you feel like you ever need more content to binge or you're running out of episodes, every Friday I put out extra exclusive content on Apple and on Patreon. You can get access on either one of those. Right now we have a library of about 75 episodes, and they're deep dives. They're like, well, I should say they're more mini deep dives, but they're on a single case. It's extra content. Last week we talked all about Brainer months.
Ashley told police that Doug had anger issues, and all about the day he fired his gun inside the house. Investigators interviewed Eva.
I was constantly having people come up to my door and questioning if my dad was a good dad. And it just made me so angry because he was, and I just kept having to repeat myself. My dad's a good dad. He's never done anything to hurt anyone. He wouldn't hurt anyone.
Doug was investigated by CPS and ultimately cleared.
He'd been evaluated by a psychologist, a full psych evaluation, who said, there's nothing wrong with this guy. He's not dangerous.
Doug was struggling on another front. Overwhelmed by handling the ballet company.
By mid-October, we were notified that Ashley was stepping down.
Did she jump or was she pushed?
Pushed.
Why?
Because there needed to be leadership, and Ashley was not being a leader.
Wise was in the room when Doug got a call from Ashley, who was more than a little upset.
The phone rang, he picks it up, and you hear Ashley screaming, "You took my ballet company away from me."
With Ashley gone, Doug brought in new leaders who made drastic changes. On October 23rd, 2017, some of these dancers, including Amanda, were called into a meeting, told to sign non-disclosure agreements.
I wanted to leave it dry because...
And Doug was of no help here?
No, Doug was nowhere to be found.
Just like that, half the company's dancers were gone. 2 days later, Ashley posted on Ashley's finger.
Doug hired a private investigator to find out what was going on.
The private eye told Doug that Ashley was seeing another man. And in November 2019, Doug filed for divorce. Soon after, Ashley began lodging complaints against Doug.
Ashley accused Doug of sexually abusing his daughter. She accused him of a whole litany of things.
Doug vehemently denied harming his daughter, and authorities agreed there was no evidence. Doug then wrote an email in March of 2020 to the sheriff's office accusing Ashley of having a split personality. But a few months later, Doug did something that seemed unthinkable. In a head-spinning move, he announced that he and Ashley were going to try again